some fan questions.
Wait, Church wants to,
Oh, nice.
do they have some questions for Church?
They didn't have any church questions. They
They
did want to know if your pet had passed away, if you guys would put them in a pet cemetery.
No.
Maybe a pet cemetery, not the pet cemetery.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. So one of our clients, I don't know if, do any of you guys play video games?
Sure. Yeah.
So Red Dead Redemption 2, which is like the biggest game. So Arthur Morgan is played by a guy named Roger Clark. And so he wants to know what it was like to work with Fred Gwynne.
Well, Miko,
I'm trying to get the connection to
baby.
What's the connection to Red Dead Redemption? I'm curious.
Nothing. He's just wanted to know.
Oh,
like this was him asking.
I was trying to overanalyze the question. Yeah.
Yes, you were overanalyzing. He just wanted to know. He's a client, and he posted that those were his questions that he wanted. He has 2 things, so that was one of them.
Cool.
Yeah.
So he wanted to know what it was like to work with him, with Fred.
I wish I could remember him more. I was so little. The stories I remember from my parents were, kind of all I have. And I know he wrote children's books, and I have signed copies that he gave me of those, which they're really cute. They're really, really cool, clever children's books, and the art is really entertaining. But yeah, I remember my parents said he was super nice and he could drink like a sailor. I know that much. Maybe Denise can corroborate that.
Couldn't we all?
Yeah.
No, he was, what a legendary talent. He was just so gracious and so giving of himself to us. We were all fairly, Miko obviously was a baby, but we hadn't done, none of it. Dale and I hadn't done a whole lot. And Mary, this was a big undertaking for her. And he was like a cat with 9 lives. He had been many times, up, down, sideways in this business. And he wasn't bitter. He wasn't attached to it in that way. He was just, I do my craft. Sometimes people like it. Sometimes you don't like it. You got to start again. After the Munsters, which of course I grew up with as a child, loving and so iconic, that show, he was untouchable. He could not get arrested after that, after that series. That's when TV was, a graveyard for actors. You did a show like that and you were, Edward Munster, nobody would give you a chance to do anything else. You were so pigeonholed. And, he basically kind of had to reinvent himself. He told me he had to, walk across a New York City. He went back to New York because Hollywood, was a dead end. And he went back to New York and just basically hit the theater again and did anything, because that's all he knew how to do. He'd say one line on stage, and eventually, people started to respond, and, Coppola put him in the Cotton Club and got him kickstarted again.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, how was Mary Lambert to work with as a child, with such a scary subject matter?
I think Mary did an amazing job of protecting me from whatever might have been, not good for a kid to see or be around. or if not, I don't remember it. I was too young, you know. I think, and I think filming movies are completely different than watching movies, and especially at that age, I'm sure there's situations where it can be ramped up a bit, but you know, with the editing and the music, it really takes you there. But when there's 20, 30 people standing around in between takes, kind of loses the atmosphere of the horror. And I think the gore was kept to a minimum that I was exposed to. Even like during the neck biting scene, we practiced that routinely beforehand. And I saw the fake neck with I'm not sure if I made the final cut, but there was a piece that came out of, it was like foam, but it was all bloody, so I could bite the piece out of the fake neck and pull it up. And I saw that before there was any makeup added to it, and it was a game. We were just wrestling and playing. So by the time anything was, you know, that could have been too much was exposed, it was introduced so slowly that it didn't mean anything. It wasn't dangerous.
Can I just add something?
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
The adult point of view about this subject.
Absolutely.
Two things. One is Mary's priority was the safety of Miko, was to ensure that he was protected and not in danger or traumatized in any way, that we would all be on board. We were all on the same page with our intention, which of course we were. You know, there wasn't an asshole on that, you know, set, but it was critical to her, for obvious reasons, you know, for his you know, benefit, but also she's got to move, she's got to make her day, you know, she's got a job to do, and you know, we need him, you know, to be in the best place possible. The other thing she did, which is extraordinary and so smart, she started the film from the beginning, and we almost shot in sequence pretty much to the T, so that Miko starts out, you know, we're playing with the cats and he's getting to work with Dale and I, and in the house and with Ellie, and feeling comfortable in this environment on the set, and it goes, and so we're playing game. It's like a big game. So by the time we get to the darker stuff at the end of the film, he's like, oh yeah, what do you want me to do, Mary? Put on the little velvet thing and bite his neck? Oh yeah, I got this. You know, so it was like the trust, you have to build that trust and that foundation of safety. And she did that. I wasn't aware she was doing that. Only in hindsight, I see what she did, and it worked.
I wonder if there's something to that in a larger sense, not just for my benefit, but I think part of what makes the original so engaging is you really feel the sense of family and the connection and the dynamic between everybody. And I wonder, in a larger sense, if that really contributed to it.
Absolutely,
nice.
absolutely, it does. So that when, you know, you get killed by that, you know, truck. And it's so interesting for me because I wasn't a mother yet, you know, but I was your mother by that point, you know, so it wasn't like a big leaping acting, you know, to do, or by the funeral sequence, which was by far the hardest thing for me to film. We were invested in each other by that point. And we had become a family.
Yeah, you could dedefinitely tell. I mean, that's the hardest part. I can't even watch that scene. When I know the trailer, the truck.
Oh my God, it's devastating. You know, even to watch. Yes, this many years later, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So did anyone in the cast have nightmares over the dying sister kept in the room?
I did. I think when I didn't see the film until I was about 12 from start to finish. I'd seen clips, little bits and pieces here and there. And because Zelda I wasn't there for the filming of the Zelda scenes. That was the most unfamiliar. When I watched the rest of the movie, even when it freaked me out at a few points, I knew what was coming. I understood it kind of preemptively. But Zelda was out of left field and scared the hell out of me for a while after that. Because I was experiencing it just like any other audience member. That was a new thing to me.
Oh yeah, terrifying. The most, I mean, to me, not the most, unsettling, because the child dying is the most unsettling, but what a brilliant take to put Andrew as in that role. And it just shifts everything to another place.
Very creepy.
I would have to say it's one of the scariest
parts.
They're very surreal. The Zelda sequences, they're always dreamlike.
Yeah.
Where everything else has some foundation in reality. We never see a normal suffering Zelda. We see this force of impending doom.
And that's Mary's painterly background, and her background in music videos. She went to RISD and studied painting. She wasn't studying film, so she comes from that kind of openness as an artist to be able to have done that kind of impressionistic kind of vibe. Yeah,
you can really tell when it changes from normal to the surreal, and especially around the Zelda sequences, that there's just a shift that is painterly, like you're saying. Like it's like the framing of it is almost different. If it was hanging on a wall, there's just an energy to it that really is starkly different between the two, that has a great impact when you're watching.
Well, even her dress,
kick up the creep factor.
Absolutely. Even her dressing you in that velveteen outfit,
so bizarre,
gothic kind of paint.
So wild.
Yeah, just, that's right up her, visual kind of.
It works.
Yeah, it does. It's like it just takes you out. You're off a little bit. Like
off balance. It's a little askew.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not quite right.
Right.
Yeah.
So my next question was, did any of you get to work with Steven?
Well, yeah. I mean, you were not in our rehearsal period. I don't think you were, because why?
Sure. But I know he was on set. And I met him like for a day or something like that. Yeah, I didn't have a direct interaction.
We had 2 weeks of rehearsal before we started shooting. So we all arrived in Maine, and that's where Steven lives, and he was very much part of the. We'd sit around in a rehearsal room, reading the script from page 1, and just asking questions. What he was so cool. It wasn't like he was giving us notes, or he certainly wasn't infringing. I mean, he had impact. He had supported Mary 100% with her interpretation. So he was out of the picture, but he was there for us if we needed him. So he was very much fun. I just remember he wore this like big, like rock and roll brass belt, like with bats, like made of a bat, and he drank Jolt Cola and chain smoke. Wow. It was like, dude, you are so intense.
The rock star.
Yeah, he had that
awesome.
band. Remember, he had that band, with all those writers.
Oh.
Yeah, he had a rock band.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
He was totally rock and roll.
Great.
Hell yeah.
That's great. So what do you think it is that people love about this movie so much? Like, why do you think they have fallen in love with Pet Sematary? With it being such a dark, with some of the stuff that happens in it. What makes you think, that people, why do they love it so much? What do you think the reason is behind that?
Wow.
I wonder if it's a little different, at least to my mind, than a lot of horror, in the sense that it's supernatural, but it's more of a tragedy. It's more of it's all based in reality, and then the supernatural kind of kicks it up a notch. It's not just a monster chasing you or some clever, quirky setup. I mean, it's definitely clever, but it's not gimmicky. I don't think it's more about the real terror. The biggest terror comes from loss and grief, and these are things that can happen, and then they're followed to this supernatural extreme that just tugs on your heartstrings all the more. And I think that basis in reality and that family connection has stuck out in a lot of people's minds, that kind of gave it this the impact that it has had.
Yeah, there's this, absolutely well said, and there's the psychological trauma that is framed in a horror film, and the psychological trauma of the inability to let go, to accept death, as painful and tragic as, and that, I'm going to say this, I have to, that's why the remake doesn't work as well for me, because they switched the death to Ellie. And what is so impactful is that the fact that this innocent baby, is taken from this genuinely loving family, and they cannot accept it. And this is, Stephen rewrote years later the foreword to Pet Sematary, and in it he said this was the most horrifying book he had ever written. People ask him that all the time, like, what do you think is the scariest book or the most horrifying book you've ever written? And people think it's going to be, I'm blanking, the hotel one, Shining, The Shining,
yeah.
or
it, or yeah,
right, like things. And he goes, no. He wrote Pet Sematary, and based on really close to home things. He was living on a road that trucks went by, and his daughter lost her cat. And he wrote Pet Sematary and said, this is too much. I've gone too, I can't. And he put it away in a drawer for years. And he was a kind of, and he had deadlines, and he had contracts, and he owed a book, and he had nothing in him. And his wife, Tabitha, I believe, she said, how about that Pet Sematary book? Turn that in, because you got nothing, and you got to make.
You got nothing.
And he goes, hard to imagine. And he said, oh, and that's when he put in Pet Sematary. And he said, just the, and Mary told me herself, she was always amazed that the studio okayed this film, because of the matricide in it. Yeah, you know, that has long been taboo. And, you know, it's not like we can name about 50 films where, you know, kids kill their mothers. It just doesn't, you know, it's like, it's been a long taboo.
Yeah.
And as it should be. But, you know, it's so this is a, I think Miko said it perfectly. It's not, you know, and the good horror films always speak to a level of, you know, psychological, our psychological wrestling with our demons, you know. The demon is the demon in our mind, you know. So this hits home. I mean, this stirs things in people.
Absolutely.
Right. So here's to switch things up a little. Any funny bloopers or funny moments that you can think of that happened either on set or just, you know, behind the scenes or that kind of stuff?
Wow. Well,
I'm embarrassed to admit, but I think multiple times I probably shit my pants. So I don't know. It's embarrassing, but the first time was bad.
Well, I think at your age, it's acceptable.
Gosh. I
yeah,
guess maybe.
It never really held up, you know, production or anything. We was kind of. You did not like going. You did not like your hair getting lightened. I can tell you
really?
that. Oh yeah. Yeah, that was not fun. I don't like mine getting lightened, so, you know, and I'm a lot older, so I can imagine.
It's tedious.
You know? Oh, it was just no. But
were they bleaching his hair at that little?
They were lightening his hair for whatever reason to match me.
Yeah, it was
you know.
There might have been highlights. I know I was a natural blonde at that age, but yeah, they do that kind of stuff a lot of times. They'll just kind of finesse it. You
know, they get a thing going, a look going. You know, it was crazy that, you know, we were the only thing in town. You know, we were like this tiny, we were in this tiny little part of Maine. And, you know, we put a lot of the locals to work on the film but, you know, we also were this Hollywood film crew that, you know, came in and sort of took over the town. So we would nightly, there was this fun little place on the highway called Bob the Lobster. It was literally like a shack, and it had this giant neon red lobster flashing on the highway. And you could get like a 5-pound lobster and a beer for like $3.50. So we were and it had a pool table. So we like lived at Bob the Lobster. That was sort of our calmest, our like wrap out and go to Bob. We go to Bob the Lob. And what's sad is it's not there anymore. It's not there anymore. It's so sad. But, you know, we had multiple great nights, you know, shooting pool. We just all bonded because, I mean, it was just, that was it. The only game in town.
That sounds fun. I wish I could have enjoyed that too.
Miko, I think you were a little too little for that.
No.
Yeah, maybe the lobster, not the.
You were in bed.
Yeah, for hours probably.
So do any of you guys watch horror films yourselves? Do you guys like horror films?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a good one, you know, Guillermo del Toro or you know, whoever's making some good stuff. I don't like slasher stuff, you know, myself, but you know, really good dark horror. I'm the only one in my household, so I watch them alone.
Too.
Oh wow, nice.
My son and husband
sometimes my son will watch them.
Wusses. They are Yeah,
How
I know.
funny.
Yeah,
I
my
know.
husband's like, nope, I don't want to watch this.
No, it's,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
seriously bad. It's like,
So funny.
when I was working on The Walking Dead, I had never seen The Walking Dead. So I watched the first, I binge watched like 3 seasons. And, my son, who's like this big strapping dude, he'd come in and like go, and like, I know he'd leave suddenly. And I go, "You're not scared, are you?" And no, I'm not scared. And then one day I came out of my back door at night and he was in the garden. I went, boo. He fucking leapt onto like Mars and back. I
That's
mean,
hilarious.
That's
they
great.
are such wusses.
That's funny.
That's funny.
I'd love to see a good horror. Do you guys have any recommendations, like recent stuff?
It's been a few years, but the one that really stuck with me that I'm loving is I love The Witch. The Witch was really good.
I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Yeah.
was that an English film or foreign
Yeah,
film?
they speak Old English, so it's kind of hard to
Yeah.
understand. And you can
Okay.
turn on subtitles, that
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
it a
yeah.
little easier. But I kind of like the confusion of it. It gives it that like much older,
Yeah.
and like all the religious overtones really hype up the power of like what a witch would be, in that time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a slow burn. It's a little polarizing, but I really dug that one.
Okay.
Us was incredible. I know that one's
Oh,
got
yeah.
a
To
lot
see
of
that, I
attention
haven't
the past
gotten
couple
to.
years. Oh, it's so good. It's
Yeah.
really
I
good.
wanted to watch
Highly
that.
recommend.
That was
Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele. I mean, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Jordan Peele. Yeah, both
Yeah.
his films are amazing.
Yes. What was
the other
did
one?
I say Us? I was thinking of Get Out, but Us is good too.
I liked
Get
Us.
Out was his first one. I
I
liked both of them. I thought they were
did
both
too.
good.
I did too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
those
wanted
are
to
the
know
kind of
more
horror
about
films
the
I like.
tether. It was a little, but maybe it's better that they don't explain too much. But I felt like they could have explained a little more about the tethered, the people, the flip side.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like all his stuff. Everything he's
Yeah.
been doing has been killing it. So
You know what? I can't wait for another season of Black Mirror. Have you been watching
yes.
that?
Yeah, they've
I've
slowed
never
down a
seen
bit
this.
and they've kind of played with the format, but it's
Oh.
amazing. Yeah.
Oh my God.
You've never seen Black Mirror?
Mirror? Mm-mm.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
it's on
Christine.
Netflix.
On
Start it
Netflix?
like
And there's
tonight.
like
It's
I
so
was
good.
obsessed with You. You seen
You
You?
are-
Did you watch You?
Oh, I hear that's good. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
So
I haven't
good.
started it.
What's
but
it called?
I heard that's great.
You.
It's about a stalker,
Yeah.
but you kind of
But you're like in his mind, like you can hear his thoughts.
his
And
thought
it's so good
process,
because
yeah.
it's one of those like you want to always know why somebody does the things they do, and like you hear it, and it's really good. You have to watch it.
It kind of pulls you in.
Is
Yeah.
it on Netflix?
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, watch that. All right, so we have a couple more questions and then I'll let you guys go. What scene in any horror film really scared you and stuck with you? Like in any horror film, was there any specific scene that you thought really stuck with you that was like super scary that you think about?
Yeah, the Zelda scenes when I was a kid, that was kind of my first, because I was in it, that was like one of the first horror movies I watched. Actually, I take that back. I think The Evil Dead or Army of Darkness was the first like horror movie. That might have been, it was around the same time. But yeah, Zelda really got to me for a long time. Some of the like torture porn stuff just bothers me. Like I don't really have a need for it. Like Hostel kind of stuck with me for a while. It's like, ugh, why? But yeah, I'm sure there's others, but those are the ones that come to mind.
Yeah. God, certain films like, I mean, I'm going back to the, like Birds, like, the Hitchcock.
Classics.
Psycho and
Scare. I mean, I grew up watching as a child. I mean, there was no, my mother let me watch anything. I mean, I would watch Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and he scared the hell out of me. I mean, just he would walk,
His
you know,
presence.
he'd walk on this blank stage, you know, and it was in black and white, and that dun, 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 and he'd walk in profile looking like a pigeon, you know, his big fat chest and this weird, and he'd walk into the sketch that was
It was
out,
like a silhouette.
yeah,
Yeah.
silhouette. He'd walk into it and then turn around and say, "Good evening," you know, and it was just, you knew you were going to be absolutely slaughtered, you know, things like that, and you know, Rod Serling, and would just, you know, do these amazing things. Still, they scare the hell out of me. The Exorcist freaked me out when I saw that movie. Freaked me out.
I agree with that one, definitely.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, you guys have been in other shows and movies. Do you have any that's a favorite of yours that you've worked on?
They're all fun for different reasons. Like I could list a bunch, but then that doesn't really answer the question. Like I think Pet Sematary is a favorite just because of the impact it's had on my adult life. Like because of this, getting to visit and hang out and do conventions and you know, follow the lore and kind of how it's just continued on. You know, Mercury Rising was a great experience. As I, you know, the character study on that was a lot for me, so I really feel connected to that one. A New Nightmare was just a blast. That was just because I was old enough to enjoy running around, you know, fighting Freddy Krueger. That was just a playground. So yeah, I mean, they all have their things that stay with you.
Yeah, I mean, I concur. I mean, you bring yourself to it, and you know, your intentions are to experience it fully, you know, each one of these projects. And you know, there's some that are bigger hits, you know, but I think the experience that you have, and the interaction with the people, and the camaraderie, and the working together to make this thing happen is you know, is rich. If that's your, you know, that's your heart, that's your intention, and certainly it's ours. And so we make a good you know, we make it good, we highlight it in that way.
Right. So are you guys working on anything now?
I'm doing more behind the
Upcoming
camera stuff.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm still working in film, but I'm doing behind the camera stuff. Camera team, local 600 of a loader. But I've been doing more non-union, like AC and DIT stuff lately, and I really enjoy it. I like being on set. I don't know that I want to act as readily, but I love set life. I grew up on it, and I love the culture, and it's been great. There is a fan film that's been kind of in the works, and I just talked to the team on that one. It's for New Nightmare. We did like a Kickstarter a year or so ago. COVID kind of kicked everybody's butt, but they're talking about ramping it up again. I think they want to do another round of funding to finish it up so we can really do it as best as we can. So that's going to be coming up in the next couple months, and then hopefully filming around September of this year. So it's like a little tribute to Freddie, and the script was really cool. I hope we can bring that off the page, because I only kind of signed on to it because I liked the idea they had. So I'm excited to see where that goes right now.
Cool.
Oh, speaking of, also, Denise, did you hear they are? I didn't get any more details, but they're talking about doing a TV. I think they want to do it for like streaming, a Pet Sematary prequel. Have you heard of that?
No.
I saw a tweet. I saw a tweet a while back, and I forget the name at the moment, but they said somebody was writing it. So I don't know if that's like confirmed or anything, but it was kind of interesting. So I don't know if they're doing like a prequel, if that's going to follow Judd or the town or other experiences in the past of encountering the Pet Sematary.
Yeah, maybe.
It's interesting. It sounds like kind of an open.
I know. I know. You know, Mary always sort of wrestled with the idea of following Ellie, you know,
Yeah.
after, because she's the only one alive. You
Yeah.
assume. I mean, I'm sure that I killed, you know, my husband. I killed Lewis as I walked into that kitchen. I have a knife behind my back, you know. So she was at her grandparents during all this.
Yeah.
So Mary, I thought it was such a cool idea. And that actually, that's what they should have done instead of do the, again, I don't mean
of
to
her
bash
coming back and
the
maybe a
remake,
little
'cause I really
older.
don't- whoa, this light was falling.
Ah.
I feel like remakes aren't really ever as great as the originals most
You
of the
know,
time. So
most of the
it's too
time, I
hard.
mean, I can't really, but you know, it's like, why? Why are you, what, there was nothing revolutionary about the retelling of the story. So
Yeah, I give them props for taking a chance on a different direction, and you know, I think regardless if it how it landed, it helps. It's good for us. It's good for the original. You know, people. It doesn't take anything away from it, and if it was amazing, then that's awesome. It just adds to it, and if
well,
it's, you know, people are going to have their opinion more or less with it. If it, you know, some like one more than the other, then that's cool too. I'm all for it, you know.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it certainly doesn't, you know, diminish us in any way. It was just, I always scratch my head though. It like, there's so many
They could have gone a bunch of
screenwriters,
different directions, maybe.
you
Yeah.
know, I just, where's the originality in any of this, you know? And look,
Yeah.
they remake it because they can, you know, they own it. So it's not a big investment kind of thing. But you know, I know so many screenplay writers and out there with their trying to get, you know,
Your
a
ideas
script made that's
Chance.
been done.
Yeah.
And you just go, man, wow, you do this instead of that. That's where I'm coming from. It's just, you know, we want to see new stuff.
Definitely.
I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you working on anything now, Denise? Or
So I just I worked on Creep Show. I did a Creep Show that just aired last night on Shudder. Yeah, it was great. It reconnected me with Greg Nicotero, who directed and produces The Walking Dead. So I went to Atlanta in October and shot it. And that was really fun. I haven't seen it, so I'm gonna have to. It just aired last night, but you know, they really doing a cool thing. They're doing like the cards. Remember, Creep Show would come out with a, you know, a character card. So I have this great drawing of me and a comic book, you know, of the episodes. Really,
that's
I
cool.
play this really crazy scientist who's been in Antarctica alone for way too long, and she's like she's discovered this the key to this kind of this like an you know, like a cell that has given life, but they're ancient beings who have come back, who are really pissed at us, the caretakers of the earth, for completely destroying everything. It's like a sort of climate analysis, you know. So it's really pretty cool. And
that sounds fun.
It was fun.
I gotta resubscribe to
like
Shudder.
do you watch yourself on stuff? Do you go back and watch yourself on things?
No. I mean, I when I have like some old stuff, it's fun because it's so far removed,
Right.
you know, that I'm like, wow, that's better than I thought it was, you know, or I'm happily surprised, or, you know, but no, I generally, for me, the beauty is in the doing of it. Like, I don't need to sit back and
100%.
watch it, you know. It's hard as an actor, you know, you're critical a little bit, and
It's hard to remove from yourself. I
Yeah.
just end up watching myself and I can't enjoy the story as much as I would otherwise. I think it's not for us. You know how it's going to end, you know?
yeah.
I'll probably,
You know what's going to happen.
It's like we've done
Yeah.
it, you know, our experience was in the making of it, in the doing of it. And, you know, that's the beauty of theater. You know, you go on,
Yeah.
that curtain rises each night, and you know, you're in the moment, and it's not,
you live it.
it's not going to happen again like that. It's done, you
Yeah.
know?
So do you guys have any social medias that you want to share with people to follow you on, if you're on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or any of that stuff?
Yeah.
Sure.
At Twitter, on Twitter, I'm at Miko Hughes, and then Instagram, which is probably my primary, is at woeismiko, WOEISMIKO. And I'm on Venmo at Miko Hughes. So you can follow me there too. You know.
Right.
That's great.
If you guys
That's
want
my
to
main
spend
one.
money.
Yes, send some money.
Me
Yeah.
too. I'm on Venmo. I just sent my son some money.
Hey,
I was able to do
we'll have to
it.
follow
Oh
each
my
other.
God.
Great.
This
And
dinosaur.
my OnlyFans is at, no, I'm kidding.
I'm on Twitter at the Denise Crosby.
Now, Dale couldn't be on here with us, but there's going to be a link below on this YouTube when it's posted for everybody to go on and buy autographs from each of you. And Dale will be on there as well. He just couldn't do the Zoom with us. So people will be able to just go on there and click the link and they can purchase autographs. So thank you guys so much for coming on and chatting with me. I've missed you guys like crazy.
Yeah, it's great to see you.
I know.